All right, guys, it's another big episode. We got Vivek Ramaswamy. Did I say that correctly? Pronounced correctly?
Pretty close. Vivek, like cake.
Vivek cake, like okay. Like
yeah,
cake.
Vivek Ramaswamy. You got
This is cool. You come in super cash.
I like being casual, to be honest. I do have to wear a suit pretty often. So whenever I can get away with not wearing one, I'm pretty happy about that.
That's dope. I like that style. You
Yeah.
just have a totally different approach. You're running for president of the United States.
Yep.
And I saw after the debates, I think, post debate, has that been like a really big kind of surge for you? Like it's been all over the internet. It's been
huge surge, I would say, going into the debate and afterwards. 6 months ago, let's be honest, nobody in this country knew who I was.
For sure.
And that's okay. I'm not, my prior career was not in the public eye in the same way. I'm a business guy.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are building a business. You know what that's like. I started my first major company. I just started my first company in college. That was a small company. Had some success with that. And then I started a biotech company that I built as CEO, built an asset manager to compete against the likes of BlackRock and Vanguard. That was my world, entrepreneurship. And then I started writing books. But when I stepped down to run for president, I was polling at not 0%, but 0.0% in March. But I had a confidence that this country needs an actual vision of what we stand for. But I see a Republican Party that is complaining about the radical Biden agenda, which I don't love either, but to talk about the left, what do we actually stand for? And so I was confident when we got started that this was going to be a successful campaign. That being said, it was a laughable idea to most other people. But yes, now we're solidly in second to third in most of the major national polls. And I think we're just getting warmed up. And so, yes, it's been something of a surge. One of the things you learn is politics is a dirty game. And so now that people are paying attention to us, you see how dirtily the game is played. And
that was your first debate, right? Ever?
That was my first debate ever.
Yeah.
Never. Everybody on that stage has been in political debates before. So it was new for me. I had fun with it. That's
crazy. Yeah. So like in some polls, are you past even DeSantis?
Yeah, in a few of them.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Probably in the averages, I'm in third, but I'm ahead of him in a few. But the reality is, and you can fall into this trap sometimes. I fall into it sometimes, but I'm sure other politicians do. If you think about, it's about me in terms of where am I placing? What is my trajectory? I think it becomes tiring, but it also takes you away from your actual true purpose. And when I'm at my best is when we're doing what this whole campaign was set up to do. Speak the truth. Speak it without a filter. Especially when it's hard, not just when it's easy. Say in public what other people agree with you on in private, but are actually afraid to say in public. And I think that's the ball game with this campaign. There is a gap between what people are willing to say in private and what people are willing to say in public. That is the best measure of the health of how we're doing as a country, is how wide that gap is. We are closing that gap. I think that fear has been infectious in this country. You guys probably know this.
For sure.
Look at every age bracket, young people especially, but it goes for everybody. There's a culture of fear that's spread across the country faster than COVID-19. Okay, it's in many ways far more harmful for the long run future of our country. But what I'm seeing is that courage can be infectious. Courage can be contagious too. It just requires more of us willing to actually speak with a spine. And so the challenge for me now, but we're going to try to stick to it, is in the early stage of the campaign, that's easy.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's paying attention to you. You're some fringe outsider people are laughing at for even trying to run for president. I'm speaking my mind openly, but it turns out that was the winning strategy to get to where we are now.
Yeah.
So I don't want to turn into now the stuffed suit, super PAC.
Does that happen?
Politician.
Does that happen now that you're getting more attention?
There's pressure for it. There's definitely pressure on me to do that.
Like, what is it? Outside
donors,
interests that start pressuring you?
Absolutely.
Trying to offer you money and then.
Yeah, and some of it's not even the worst. The worst ones of all are the ones that don't offer you money, but think they're entitled to tell you how you're supposed to think anyway.
Can you explain how that works to our audience, like the whole raising money thing, and how does that kind of work with like changing people's policies?
So yeah, this is something it's really worth understanding. And the rule of thumb I use is the more boring it sounds, the more you should pay attention, because it's designed to be boring for a reason. That applies to a lot of areas. It applies to the political process too. So in principle, the max amount you can give to a campaign is $3,300 in the primary and another $3,300 in the general election.
One person?
One person, yeah.
Okay.
So the total amount you could give is, call it $6,600, $6,600. Now, that's a lot of money for most people in this country. So I'm not sniffing at that, but it's not a lot of money at the scale of changing the way politicians behave at the individual level. I mean, probably $2 billion or so will be spent by whoever wins this election all the way through the general election. So somebody gives you $6,600, that doesn't really tilt the scales of anything. And that's the maximum. That's a charade. Because the real money that's getting spent in this campaign is through these independent entities that they call super PACs.
Okay.
So technically they can't coordinate with the campaign, but you look at other candidates in this race, hundreds of millions of dollars being spent into and out of these super PACs.
So they can just walk in with like 50 mil or something or whatever.
Totally.
And what qualifies, like, how do you qualify to have a super PAC?
So anybody can set one up, but it's all a charade, right? So they say you can't coordinate with the super PAC. There are multiple candidates in this race where their entire candidacy is being run by their super PAC. And it's worse because the super PAC then holds the keys where the candidate themselves, and these are in other cases, these candidates aren't bad people. I know them. They're, as human beings, not bad people. But they're turned into a puppet by their super PAC that serves up binders, like ahead of the first debate. You know, Ron DeSantis' super PAC serves up this binder. It's like 17 pages about, literally down to the line, what he's supposed to say about me on stage. And, you know, unfortunately for them, that got leaked. And so that ruined their strategy and everything else. But I mean, put this to one side. This isn't even about the politician. These aren't bad people. It's a broken system where the donors who are putting money into that super PAC think they're entitled to literally serve up the script that candidates are supposed to speak from. And the problem is, if that's where your bread is buttered, if that's your mother's milk, you got to do what mommy and daddy say. So I refuse to play that game.
How do you go about it?
Well, fortunately for me, I have lived the full arc of the American dream. I've put in 15, 16 plus million dollars of my own hard money into this campaign, and we'll stop at nothing to avoid having to be somebody else's circus monkey. But not everybody's in that position. See, I mean, my parents came to this country with no money. I've gone on to found multiple multi-billion dollar companies. I mean, the media tracks my net worth more than I do on a day-to-day basis, but I've earned a lot of money in this country, you know, close to $1 billion, you could call it, if not more. Great. I'm in a position to say that I don't need to beg the other billionaires in that class.
I thought you couldn't self-fund yourself, though. Or is that
so that's the one thing you can do.
Okay.
We could rethink the whole system. But the max amount somebody can put into the campaign is $3,300 if it's not the candidate themselves. The candidate can put an unlimited amount.
Okay.
It's sort of, I mean, you can debate whether you like it or not, but that's the way the game is played.
I think that makes sense. Is that something that
because you're
Trump
not controlled
did too?
by somebody else. Trump did it too.
Okay.
Trump did that too. He put in, you know, I'm putting in tens of millions. He's putting tens of millions. That's what that looked like. But that stops, I mean, that basically makes us the only two candidates that are not dependent on the super PAC puppet class. And the thing for me that makes it difficult is, so we're in New York City. I used to live here for a long time in my 20s. My first company was based here. I understand and am plugged into much of the Wall Street world and otherwise. We could be raising, I mean, technically you show up at events. It's such a charade. The way it works is candidates show up at events hosted by the super PAC, and then you show up and speak, but then you have to walk out of the room when they ask them for the money to show that you're not coordinating. It's just a joke. But I could be playing that game. But the problem is my views don't align with what most of those people want me to be saying. Ending the war in Ukraine, for some reason, the mega donor class, very unpopular idea. My view that the climate change agenda, okay, the anti-fossil fuel agenda, I think it's a hoax. I think more people are dying. I know that more people are dying of bad climate change policies that restrict access to oil and gas to people around the world and in this country. That's killing more people than climate change itself. I said that on the debate stage. The number of prospective donors that I was told we lost over that, staggering. The fact that I said I would pardon Trump I mean, this drives the Republican donor establishment nuts. And so there's a choice you face. Either you can speak your mind freely, or you can speak through the prism of what the donor class wants you to say, but it's a choice.
Makes so much sense. Like,
I mean, it's just the way the game's played. And so if I had it my way, the game would not work like this at all. But
you were aware that it was like this though, right?
I was, but not how bad it is, right? I think that this is, however bad I thought it was, I was wrong. It's far worse than we ever imagined. Mm. But we can't just sit here and complain, right? You can't. We're in this for a reason. There's a lot of ways to drive change in this country. I was writing books, starting businesses. I'm a father of 2 sons. The U.S. president is not obviously the most important role of any. I think it's going to take everybody to play their role. But I think there's a role for the U.S. president to play. And so having been called into this race, now we're committed to it. We're not turning back. I think being successful, playing the game of a broken system, that is the only option. And then we're going to fix, in our 8 years in office, a lot of what the broken rails are in the first place. I'm like a train car riding broken rails. We've already chosen to get on the broken rails. There's no getting off now. We're going to stay through till we finish the job, and then we'll lay the proper rail tracks down. Yeah. And that applies to the super PAC game. I mean, in the general election, when it comes to election integrity, single day voting with election day as a national holiday, paper ballots, government issued voter ID to match the voter file.
Is that going to be implemented this time or no?
Not this time.
It won't be. So that's something that you'll have to change if you get into office.
Exactly. And this is why a big part of why I'm in this race is I think this cannot be, it just can't be a 50.1 tug of war election. I think we're skating on thin ice as a country.
Because either way, then the country's just going to be so divided again, right?
Exactly. It will throw kerosene. I mean, if this is, and also even just think about the election. If MSNBC and CNN are trotting out the winner the Monday after the Tuesday of election day, we are skating on thin ice as a country. I don't know if we have it in us right now. And then even after that, to be as divided as we are. That's why in this campaign, I don't talk about Republicans and Democrats. I don't care if you're black, white, red, or blue. If you agree on the basic rules of the road, the principles that unite us as Americans, then we're on the same team. Meritocracy, free speech, the pursuit of excellence, the rule of law, self-governance, the idea that we each have a vote in a constitutional republic that count equally, not kings in the back of palace halls in old world England or 3-letter government agency buildings in Washington, D.C. If we agree on those basic rules of the road, okay, maybe we can debate whether corporate tax rates are high or low. That's a detail. But on the basic rules of the road, I think most of us in this country actually still agree on them.
I would agree, yeah.
80% probably. And half the 20 are people younger than us who never learned those ideals in the first place. We can bring them along too. And so I love Trump's policies. 90%. I love the guy too, by the way. He and I have a good relationship. He did what he was going to do. But if we want to take that agenda further and actually reunite this country, I think it's going to take somebody of a different generation that actually has a vision of this is what it means to be an American. This is what we stand for. No city left behind, no state left behind, no American left behind. Multi-ethnic, working class, broad coalition, win in a landslide, reunite this country. Take our America First agenda further, which most people in this country, if they're being honest, and it wasn't Trump saying it, they would agree with sealing the southern border. I mean, New York City, just look around what's happening in this city. It's chaos. Why? We have a law relating to borders. We just don't follow it. Most people agree with that, but somehow if one man says it, people think they disagree with that. And so my job in this is to take those policies to the next level, but also to reunite the country in the process. Because we could speak about these issues as a first-generation American, as a guy who's lived the American dream in a way that doesn't induce psychiatric illness in 30% of the population. Yeah. I mean, I don't even call them the other side. There is no one other side. This is the mentality for me in this campaign, and I think we all have to start thinking this way. It's my plan. Speak the truth. By the end of this, I think that my job is to make sure every person in this country knows who I am and what I stand for.